Hey, what is up, guys? My name is Spencer Fielding, and this is the Full Court Talk podcast. So, to tell you a little about myself, my favorite team is the Golden State Warriors. Always has been, always will be. I'm a Bay Area boy. My favorite star player is Stephen Curry. Easy, greatest shooter of all time. Probably one of the best Warrior players of all time, and probably one of the most entertaining players I've ever seen in my life. And to make it a little interesting, my favorite non-star player is Michael Beasley. Straight out bucket getter. Break ankles daily. Likes to say he's a true hooper, pure hooper. So those are some of my favorite players. If you guys want to, comment down below and say who your favorite star player and non-star player is. I'm going to say a little plug for my social media. Follow me at Full Court Talk on Twitter, Instagram, and then also visit my website under the same name on WordPress. So we're going to get into 3 different topics today. So we're going to get into the possible players that the Warriors could draft just because they're possibly the number 1 overall pick. And we'll get into about 5 or 6 different players that they could draft. The next part is the chance of Giannis going to the Warriors. I know it's a Warriors heavy first episode, but I'm a Warriors fan. I'll try not to do this with too much bias though. And the last part is, could the NBA actually return? I got some things I want to say about that, so let's get started. So the Warriors and who they could draft. This is a pretty interesting topic, I think, because the Warriors haven't been in this position since they drafted Harrison Barnes, Draymond Green, and Festus Ezeli. They're the first lottery pick since then. And they want to make the right pick. They want to make a player that can strive in their system and that will be able to just be able to produce right away, but at the same time have the potential to do something better. And I think that's the most important thing here. So the first player we're going to go over is Obi Toppin. I think he's my favorite player in the draft. He's a sophomore at Dayton. He's from Brooklyn. So he's projected right now around the top 3, top 5. He's really kind of all over the place because of his age. He's 22 years old. He was born on March 4th. Yeah, he's on the older side, and I don't think they would get him with the first overall pick. I think if they slid back to 3, 4, or 5, I think they would pick Obi. But he had a phenomenal year at Dayton. In 31 games and 32 minutes played, he averaged 20 points. He averaged a block and a steal, 2 assists, 7.5 rebounds. Shot 39% from 3, which is pretty good for a big man. And he also shot 63% from the field. He is a high-flying player, and I think he has a lot of entertainment value, and also his ability to step outside and shoot the 3 is something that is very interesting. He's 6'9". He's listed as power forward, 220. I could see him playing a little bit of center for the Warriors because they like to go small. They either go with, maybe they list Obi at the center, but Draymond plays center on defense. He's pretty good. He doesn't rebound particularly well, but he's quick, he's fast, I think he'd be a perfect pick for the Warriors because of his ability to stretch the floor and catch lobs. On offense, that's all you want him to do. You don't want to introduce him to too much too quickly. He's not going to need to post that much. He's going to essentially be able to do what's comfortable for him. So I think he'd be a solid pick there. The next prospect we're going to look at is Anthony Edwards. So Anthony Edwards is another guy who has been talked about a whole lot. He really is a lot of people's consensus number 1 pick because he oozes athleticism. He's a rather big individual for a shooting guard. He is 6'5" and 225. So, like I said, he's a pretty big individual. He is 18 years old, about to be 19. So he's also a lot younger than someone like Obi Toppin. Now, his stats were subpar in 32 games. No, I don't want to say subpar. He was good, but he didn't shoot the ball particularly well. He played a lot of hero ball. But he played 32 games. In 33 minutes, he shot 40% from the field, 29% from three. He did grab 5 rebounds. He averaged a steal a game and 3 assists with 3 turnovers on 19 points. So he had a good season. He was playing at Georgia. Not a great school in terms of NBA prospects. I think he was going to be one of their first NBA prospects. I could be wrong on that, but he's a guy that would have to come off the bench for the Warriors, and I think that's where he would have the problem. I don't know if a number 1 pick would want to come off the bench like that, and rightfully so. He's a great player, and I think on any other team he would start. I think it's a unique situation for the Warriors because they have so many guys that can play, and I think he wouldn't start over Andrew Wiggins right away, and he can't start over Clay. And I understand why they want to pick him, but I think if they get the number 1 overall pick, they trade it. I don't think the Warriors would keep it. Next, the next one we're gonna talk about is LaMelo Ball. He's an interesting prospect. He's 6'7", 18 years old. He's from Chino Hills. He played his time, as most of you all know, he played his time in Australia. So it's hard to judge how good he was. Excuse me. And he didn't have. I think the interesting thing about him, he can't shoot as well. He's very tall. He's lengthy. He has the NBA body in terms of height and length, but I think he needs to add more muscle. He shot 37% from the field, 25% from three, but his passing and his rebounding are kind of what helps him, as well as his name. I don't know if I'm almost certain the Warriors will never pick him because I just don't know how he would fit, and I don't think he would also take a bench role. So, moving on from him. Next comes James Wiseman, another hot name coming off. He played 3 games at Memphis, 7'1" center, 237 pounds. And if the Warriors are going to get the first pick, most people think they'll select James Wiseman. He's 19 years old. He's a great center. I mean, in those 3 games, we can go over it. He played 23 minutes, shot 77% from the field. He attempted a 3, but didn't make it. Shot 70% from the line, which is pretty decent. Actually, pretty good for a big man. He averaged 10.7 rebounds, 3 blocks, 1 turnover, about 2 fouls on 20 points. Pretty good. Good numbers, but with such a small sample size, it's really hard to tell. But the guy oozes athleticism. He's quick. He's fast. I just think it's really difficult to select someone with such a small sample size. I don't know if the Warriors would do that. And to add insult to injury, you can find a big man anywhere. Marquise Chris was great for the Warriors this year. Yeah, he doesn't have size, but he has the defense, and he defends, rebounds, dunks. That's all they need him to do. And on the Warriors, in the Warriors offense with Steph and Clay and Dre, Andrew Wiggins now, like, all he needs to do is rebound and get the ball back out, or rebound and dunk. And you see a lot of these really good teams getting their big men off free agency. Look at JaVale McGee and the Lakers. Or the Milwaukee Bucks, how they have Brook Lopez. Yes, they signed him to an extension, but before that, they had him on a veteran's minimum. So, and then you also have Ibaka Zubac, Zubac on the Clippers. He was a minimum player. They traded for him. He's been great for them. So, my point is that you can find centers that do these things everywhere. And with the center position kind of becoming not useless, but it's not as coveted, it's really hard to pay another big man. Unless the NBA revolves back around and goes back to the big man, I think it's really hard to pick someone like James Wiseman because it's going to be hard to pay him in the 4 years. And he could leave. So I'm iffy on James Wiseman. I like the idea of him now, but the idea of him later is what scares me. The next is a power forward from USC, Onyeka Okongwu. He is a power forward / center. He's 6'9", 245 pounds, 19 years old. He played with LaMelo in Chino Hills, I believe. This guy does exactly what the Warriors need, obviously. And he's a little easier to pay because from what it sounds like, he could be another Bam Adebayo type. And after seeing Bam Adebayo's surge this season of him becoming an all-star and having such a great season, this could entice teams because he has the same body frame. And he's electrifying on defense. He averaged 2.7 blocks and a steal. 16 points on 61% shooting from the field. He also 25% from 3. I think that's a very small sample size because it says he attempted 0.1. He averaged 8.6 rebounds, which is decent, but at his size, it's okay. But I think all in all, if they could trade back and get him, I would be okay with that too. Onyeka Okongwu, I think he's a good player, and I think he would be pretty good on the Warriors just because he's of his ability to run the floor and score the ball and also play defense. Isaac Okoro has been circulating pretty recently. He's a 6'6" small forward from Auburn. He's a freshman, 225 pounds, 19 years old. And he's projected around the 13th on the big board, and on the mock drafts he is 9th, going to the Wizards. So the Warriors would also have to trade back for this one. In 28 games, 31 minutes, he averaged 12.8 points on 51% from the field. He made 28.6% of his threes, so not a great shooter. And he only made 67% of his free throws. But here is the enticing thing about him is his defense. He's a great defender, and he would be essentially Andre Iguodala's replacement. I wouldn't say he's Andre Iguodala. I would say he's Andre Iguodala light. He plays defense, and I think that's what the Warriors want. They would have to trade back for him, and I think that's where you could get more draft capital maybe if they do slip in the lottery. So say if they get the 4th or 5th pick, I can see them trading back for someone like Isaac Okoro or the next guy, which is Saddiq Bey. He is going to be our last one we talk about. He is from Villanova, so he's cool with Eric Paschall. He's 6'8", small forward, 216, 21 years old. Right now, he's projected to go 14th in Portland, but on the big board, he's 18th overall. So he averaged 16 points per game on 47.7% from the field, 33 minutes a game, 31 games played. 76.9% from the free throw, and he made 45% from 3 on 2.5 makes and 5.6 takes. He is a absolute sniper. And I would think when he gets to the NBA, about 40% is what I'd see him at. Also averaged 4.7 rebounds, 2.4 assists, and not much defensive stats as he averaged 0.4 blocks and 0.8 steals. He would be a good piece off the bench for the Dubs because his ability to shoot. This adds another shooter off the bench, with something that the Warriors have severely lacked in recent years. But with this past season, with Damian Lee and Jordan Poole kind of coming into their own towards the end of the season, this makes the pick less likely. Unless Damian Lee leaves over the offseason, which I don't think will happen, but you never know. He would be an interesting pick because of his ability to shoot and his relationship with Eric Pascal. So those are the guys we went over. There's a couple more, like Denny Advia, a Israeli, I believe he's a small forward. People compare him to Luka. I don't think that's a very fair comparison. He played in Israel, like I said. He's good shooter, good passer. Not much is known about him, and I think he's gonna go fairly early because of Luka's rise to the top, if you will, because people are gonna be enticed wanting to find the next Luka. Same thing happened when Dirk came in. So, it's a we'll see kind of thing with him. But he played pro basketball with Maccabi Tel Aviv. And so on to our next part. Chances of Giannis going to the Warriors. And if this happened, it would be up there with Kevin Durant coming to the Warriors. A superstar, life-changing player coming to the Warriors again would be amazing as a Warriors fan. But on the other side, NBA fans are going to hate him. And I think it matters to Giannis and what he thinks about himself. Giannis has never said, I don't like Milwaukee. He's always had good things to say about Milwaukee. He's always said, I want to end up in Milwaukee. There are no indications pointing that he wants to come to the Warriors, other than maybe his friendship with Steph. And it doesn't help that when he got hacked yesterday, one of the things said was, I'm going to the Warriors. And of course it was hacked. So you never know, you know it's fake. But it adds fuel to the fire, and Warriors fans loved it. Bucks fans hated it. And it would suck because the Bucks are such a small market, and if they were to lose someone like Giannis, it would be a crushing blow. And there's nothing that the Warriors could offer that would be good enough where the Bucks are like, yeah, let's take it. Because Giannis is such a life-changing player. And if you compare the deals, a deal that I have made up compared to what the Thunder got for Paul George, this is nothing. What the Clippers ended up with, 6 first-round picks, something like that. It was a godly amount of picks, and it's just ridiculous on how much they ended up with. But the trade I came up with would be the Dubs trade Wiggins, Warriors current 2020 first-round pick, Minnesota 2021 first-round pick, top 3 protected, and the Warriors 2022 first-round pick. Lots of draft capital, but maybe they add a couple more second-round picks just to sweeten the deal, but I don't think the Warriors... I think the Warriors do this in a heartbeat. I don't think the Bucks do. I think the only way this all happens is if Giannis chooses to say, hey, I want to go to Golden State. I'm demanding a trade. Trade me there, I won't play. And that's just not... I don't think that's who Giannis is. I don't think this is likely at all, unless something happens drastically where the Bucks are we've lost so much money over this pandemic during the COVID-19 hiatus, and they're like, we got to trade everyone but you. And it's just so unlikely. I don't see this happening. But something people have to remember is everyone was saying that about KD as well. Saying, oh, it's a pipe dream. It's never going to happen. He's going to resign with OKC. He's playing there for the rest of his life. He never publicly said anything about, oh, I don't like OKC. Oh, I don't want to be here. Much like Giannis. So anything can happen. And as a Warriors fan, that kind of gives me hope. But at the same time, I wouldn't bet on it because they were having such a good season. I think they had 8 losses or something. They were very close to beating the Warriors record, but they probably weren't going to do it. But they were primed to make the NBA Finals, and it's such a shame that they didn't, because they would have been so much fun to watch against whoever they played in the Western Conference. But anyway, so I came up with a couple of different players that they could trade for. Warriors, I think the main one I could see is Aaron Gordon, because of his ability to be like Obi Toppin if the Warriors choose that, hey, Obi Toppin is not really who we want to go with, or no one in this draft. Since it's a rather weak draft, it's top heavy, maybe they say, we don't see anyone we really like. Maybe they trade for Aaron Gordon. He's great on both sides, great defense, great offense. Maybe they can unlock his potential. He's such a young player. I think that could happen. Rudy Gobert is an option. I'm not big on Rudy Gobert. I don't think a lot of people are, other than Utah Jazz fans. I'm not big on him because of what he did and how he didn't treat the whole pandemic as a... He wasn't very serious about it, and I think that kind of frustrated a lot of people. I don't think the pandemic was all him in terms of canceling the NBA season, but it was frustrating to see him just make a joke out of it. They would have to get rid of Draymond Green in the deal, apparently, and I'm big on Draymond, even though he had a down season. I want him to stay. Another one is Bradley Beal. I've heard this one in the past, not so much recently, but Bradley Beal could be an interesting trade, but this is similar to D'Angelo Russell, not in the way they play, but it's just another scoring guard. Good on defense, pretty good playmaker, but this also comes with the Wizards' unwillingness to deal him or John Wall. They want to see what they can do together, it makes sense. Apparently John Wall's coming back next season, and I'm happy for him. I've always loved John Wall, loved Bradley Beal, and hopefully together they'll play well. But anyways, I think chance of Giannis coming to the Warriors, I don't see it. I don't see it at all. Hoping for it as a Warriors fan, but I don't see it. So getting into the next topic, a hot button topic, could the NBA season actually return? So there are 3 or 4 teams. I have 5 teams here looking to open. Cavs, Nuggets, Blazers, Lakers, Rockets. They all plan to open sometime soon. Their practice facilities. And they would be tested every time they come in. Doesn't matter if you have symptoms, as long as you're under 99.1 in terms of your temperature, you can go practice. I don't know what to think about this, because you're wasting tests on players, and yes, they make a lot of money for the world in the NBA, but I don't know. I'm not really here for it, because I know I just want this to be over, and what if this prolongs it? And I don't think the NBA season comes back without a vaccine. It's hard to see it coming back because there's so many factors. Because what if an NBA player gets it again? The whole NBA team has to sit out for 2 weeks. Can't pause the season. You can't forfeit games. Because what if someone on the Bucks or Lakers gets it during the playoffs? Do you pause the playoffs for them? Or do you forfeit and let the other team move on? But what if they played someone while they had it, and the other team has to sit out? What do? There are too many factors, and I don't think that the NBA season returns until a vaccine is present and shown that it's working. Keep in mind, head coaches won't even be allowed into the practice facilities because of their age, which I think is smart, but I don't see it coming back without a vaccine present, and I think that's the most pressing matter. you need a vaccine present because if the players get sick again, they gotta wait 2 weeks in quarantine. And yes, the survival rate is relatively high. I think it's 98%, but still, you don't want to get other players sick. You don't know who they have at home. You don't know what's happening. And I know a lot of players don't want to play without fans, but I think they're going to have to by next season, even if I mean, even Steph came on a podcast. I think it was the Roy McIlroy and I don't remember the other guy, but he came on and said it would suck to play out with no fans because he loves the fans. I think it would change a lot of the aspects of the game. Shutting up fans is one of the best feelings as a road team. You won't be able to do that now. And Doc Rivers came out and said he wants the refs to wear earmuffs, which I think is a good idea because they don't know half of what the players say during the games because it's so loud. And he did explain that Patrick Beverley probably wouldn't last the whole game. And he's 100% right. So I just don't see it. I don't see it happening without a vaccine, unfortunately. And I hope to God that a vaccine comes soon. But I don't see it happening anytime soon for the NBA to return, unfortunately. But that's all we have for today. Thank you for listening to my first podcast. So please follow me on social media. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Twitter. I also have a website. They're all Full Court Talk. Find me, follow me, talk to me, whatever you want. But thank you for listening. That's Full Court Podcast.